Whether you are a brand new teacher or you are a veteran teacher looking for a new job, finding a teaching position is stressful and intimidating. You want to be confident, but not too confident. You want to show your knowledge, but also show that you are willing to still learn and grow. Whether you are brand new or a vet, these resume and interview tips will help you stand out from the crowd. The first step in landing a brand new teaching position is applying. Applications are exclusively online now, so best practice says you need to continue to hunt for jobs in the districts that you want and apply the right ways. In the old days, you used to stand out by showing up, saying hi, trying to introduce yourself. Nowadays, you really need to follow the process and submit everything online. So how do you stand out? You stand out by the way you present yourself in that resume. Having a visually appealing resume that's just a little bit unique helps you stand out from the whole pile of resumes. Unlike in other positions where your resume should be 100% professional, in education, it's okay to let your unique personality stand out. You want your resume to be eye-catching. You want it to be professional still, but you want it to set you apart from the rest of the pack. A few quick tips to keep in mind when submitting your resume. 1, keep it to 1 page. That might be 1 front and back sided page, but still keep it to 1 page. Even if you have been teaching for 30 years, you only want to highlight what stands out from all of the other applications. As both an interviewee and an interviewer, over the last 15 years, you would be shocked by the number of resumes I have read that have many typos and misspellings in them. One easy way you can stand out from the rest is just proofreading your resume and making sure it is showcasing all of the right things instead of the wrong things. I have another video that dives deep into resumes themselves, and I'll link it here if you want to watch more about how you can make your resume stand out. That unique and professional resume is going to help you get set up with an interview. So how do you rock that interview? It's not as hard as it seems when you're in it. You sell yourself before, during, and after your interview. Arrive a few minutes early. I always try to get there about 15-ish minutes early. So I am early enough that they're able to take me early if they're ready, but not so early that I'm sitting there interrupting what they're doing before or twiddling my thumbs, making myself even more nervous. If you're running late for any reason, especially if you're lost, and some schools can be difficult to find, just give them a quick call and explain. I wouldn't call too early, that way if they're with somebody else, you're not interrupting them, but maybe about 5 minutes before your interview time, if you're still struggling to find it, give them a quick call and they'll probably give you better directions to help you find it. Even with GPS, it still happens, and I promise they won't look down on you if you are legitimately lost. Another way of making sure you stand out from the crowd is to go into your interview dressed professionally. This was a no-brainer back when I first started interviewing 20 years ago, but nowadays you would be surprised by how many people come dressing much more on the casual side of business casual. In my opinion, if I'm dressing business casual most days at work, I want to step it up a notch going into an interview. Dress pants and a blouse, sometimes it's a dress. Whatever you are comfortable in, these 2 things help make a good first impression. So let's dive into the interview where you can continue to put your best foot forward. The first thing you should think of when you walk into an interview is making sure you know yourself. Interviews are an opportunity to sell yourself, and you should have specific information about yourself ready to share so you're not trying to think on the fly. Feel free to write down some notes ahead of time so that you can glance at them when you're talking. Nobody is going to look down on you because you have a reference sheet, and it'll help make sure you touch on everything you want to highlight. You don't want to write in sentences, and you certainly don't want to read, but a couple quick notes will help give you nice reminders to help you feel comfortable as you are speaking. You should be prepared to introduce yourself. giving your name, some of your history if you have been teaching for a while, and things you are interested in. Often in interviews, you're asked about your philosophy on education or asked about your philosophy on specific facets of education. Some things you might be prepared to talk about are behavior, classroom management, and how you handle that, or the science of reading. Some other less common now topics that used to be very common a couple years ago your classroom environment and differentiation. In this post-2020 world, classroom management is more important than ever. Before you go into your interview, look on that school's website to see if you can find information about any school-wide systems that may already be in place. Do they follow PBIS or Responsive Classroom? These are things that might be helpful to brush up on before you walk in the door of that interview. It might also be helpful to then connect your existing or previous classroom management routines with those implementations. Another area it would be helpful for you to be prepared with and prepared on and answer with is your philosophy on reading. With the growing push for the science of reading, there are new and ongoing implementations of different practices around the country. You should be prepared for explaining how you have taught reading in the past, what research on the science of reading you have done, and if the building is undergoing any initiatives, you should ask about them or have looked previously to see if you can find that information to connect with what you have already done with what they are already implementing. If you are a brand new teacher who hasn't been implementing those things in the past, you can talk about the things that are of value to you, the things you have seen implemented, and the topics you have been trained on, and you can share how excited you are to continue to learn more with them. Another topic you should be prepared to answer is talking about data and assessments. Do you have systems in place already that you use to store and manage data? Have you seen systems they showcase on their website that they use to show and manage data? This is a great opportunity for you to talk about how you use data to drive your instruction and what assessment systems you're already familiar with. Again, if you're a new teacher, this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions or for you to share how you have used data in your practicum and student teaching settings. The last topic you should be prepared to answer when you walk in is on your own strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses are frequent and common questions during interviews, but they can be difficult to think of on the fly. But having answers ready to go can help you make sure you're answering them as clearly and specifically as you'd like to. For me, if I don't have those thoughts prepared in advance, I tend to talk around answers and not give a clear and specific answer. So being prepared with answers for those common questions can be a very helpful strategy as you go into that interview. Finally, some of those things can be difficult to talk about if you are a brand new teacher or if you've only been teaching 1 to 2 years. If that's the case, you can talk about what you have seen and liked or what you have seen and not necessarily been as much of a fan of. Now, you don't want to spend a long time talking about the negative, but instead you can talk about how, for instance, your cooperating teacher used a clip chart and you didn't like the derogatory nature of that, so instead you would like to implement a positive reinforcement system or something like that. Or you could talk about how that's something you don't yet know a lot about, but you are eager to learn more. As a new teacher, you aren't going to come in the door knowing everything that they are already implementing, and that's okay. Instead, you want to show that you're willing to learn and grow, and then it's important on the back end that you do that learning and growing with them. Another way you can walk into your interview prepared is to know your audience. As I mentioned previously, in questions you need to be prepared to answer, spend some time doing research on that school before you go into the interview. I have sat and read school improvement plans to get a better understanding of schools, but a lot of times you can find information both on their website and on the state data website. Referring to the specific programs and philosophies a school uses will help you stand out from the crowd during your interviews. Already being familiar with a program might give you bonus points in an interview if others don't make that connection during that time. Also, see if you can find out about any technology or special programs that building has in place so you can help talk about those during your interview as well. Typically at the end of an interview, interviewers will ask you if you have any questions. Your research on the school beforehand will give you ideas for things you may want to know more information about. I think it's wise to always have at least one question to ask about that school during your interview. It shows them that you are interested in that school, not just any old job, but you specifically want to be there if you want to learn more about them. You want to come in ready to talk specifically about that school, their programs, their climate, their technology, so you are able to sell why that's the place you want to be. A couple other questions you might want to have answers prepared for before you go revolve around planning, standards, and data. Those kind of most important parts in our instruction? How do you go about planning a day? How do you go about planning a skill for a week? How do you feel about following programs with fidelity? How do you incorporate small groups into your classroom? All of those things are the most important parts of our day, but responses might vary based on history or training or where you're at in your educational process. Be prepared with answers because you know they're going to ask you about instructional components and you don't want to mess it up, not talking about specifics because you haven't thought that through. A couple other things to be prepared for are talking about parent involvement and how you work together as a team. School climates are very important. So you want to talk about how do you work together as a team or in a larger picture, or what you need to be successful in a teamwork climate. As I talked about before, you sell yourself before, during, and after an interview. After an interview, it's great practice to send a quick email to the interviewer or interviewers, just thanking them for their time. This might be a great time to mention something you maybe forgot to mention on the fly. I almost always forget to mention something I think is important, and it's just a chance to have your name be back in their mind with something positive at the end. One last thing is regarding teacher portfolios. When I was graduating college, we spent a lot of time putting together this massive binder of things we wanted to showcase. And I remember bringing this binder and trying to talk through all the things in there. I continued to try to have this binder with materials, share them during interviews, but in reality, I don't think people really wanted to read them. And I don't think they really sold as much as I thought they did. They don't need to see pictures of me working with students. They know I have worked with students. I have been an interviewer flipping through a binder and not fully listening to a person's responses because they had binders and portfolios to pass around. I'm not sure how it looks elsewhere, but I have done interviews at a couple different places and they've never been a huge selling feature for us. So rather than having a printed binder, it might be helpful to have a URL that you can share either on your resume or in that follow-up email after that gives people a chance to look at more information or see those pictures or see that planning that you have done that's outside of that interview if they are interested. You can make a slideshow using PowerPoint and publish on the web, or use something like Google Slides, and Canva is even a great tool for this. It gives the interviewer another way to see a glimpse inside your classroom. It gives them something to remember you with. I think it's a great strategy for emailing in that "Hey, thanks for spending time with me" email, and it just gives a quick "here you go if you'd like to learn more." I hope these tips have made you feel comfortable and ready to rock that teacher interview. I will leave a link below with specific strategies to think about as you are preparing your resume, and as well as a link to several teacher resume templates I have available. Till next time.